Good evening, Scott here, known as Cantaloupe to some online, and I'm bringing a video to you on a subject that's interesting to me. It might be of interest to you or someone you know. And I want to talk about this idea I have that many big collapses of civilization throughout history, governments collapsing, societies collapsing, kind of boils down to a final central point where there's a failure of the ability of people to do things on a natural, normal level, things that are vitally important to human life and life in general, such as reproduction, where the process of meeting mates, for example, is centralized or managed or overmanaged or abused to the point where people just cannot support it anymore. So something has to give, basically, at that point. This is kind of an idea that I've been tossing around, and I think there's a lot of evidence for it when you think about it and when you look at history, that attempts are made by power players, if you will, but parties who are influential and who, for whatever reasons, want to, obtain control of people or defense and security and just power and influence. They sometimes try to centralize the process of reproduction. It just kind of gravitates in that direction because it's such a basic and common human behavior. It's one of those low-hanging fruits, they say, is an opportunity to control people, to punish them or to reward them by denial or gifting or allowing access to people in general for the things that they, by nature and by God, would have rights to regardless in nature, in the jungle, if you will. These parties, these authorities, if you will, or administrators, they will try to sometimes centralize this process, is what I'm talking about. They centralize it so that some kind of licensing scheme is imposed over the people where they have to obtain permission to do certain things that are vitally necessary. And because this is such an obviously untoward and unsavory practice, it usually happens behind the scenes and is therefore combined with corruption in many cases. It's a form of corruption itself, and it intermingles with other types of corruption where there are favors done or literal payments made towards gaining access or the opportunity to cherry pick, so to speak, and at which point it becomes centralized. There's this irresistible lure that kind of preys on human nature, regardless of the person doing it or the people or the nature of the administration, the political beliefs or ideologies. They many times succumb to the temptation of just overindulging, failing to provide enough access to people. It's just an unsupportable thing because it becomes a form of commercialized sex. I'm talking about access to reproduction, like I said. It becomes a form of commercialized sex, and therefore random sex, random mating, is contrary to the survival of any species. If you know anything about biology, and I don't want to go on and on in any random direction, but there's something called non-random mating, which is a core principle of evolution, and the survival of any species depends on selection, natural selection, survival of the fittest, being able to choose between mates directly without a third party, without a man in the middle or a permitting authority, if you will, to reproduce or not, having some kind of uncertainty, some kind of opportunity, chance, in order to propagate good genes. And we see this in human beings as the traditional type of love where a boy meets girl and there's not a lot of interference in between them or management, micromanagement. And when something gets rolled out that is a framework expected to control and manage these kinds of things with a centralized organization, it has the effect of commercializing it. It has the effect of whether there's actual exchanges of currency or not, it has the effect of randomizing it or making it not about the people selecting each other, but some kind of political interests or financial interests or managerial interests, but other things than what it would normally be genetic interests. And this is the point of failure. It sounds like a leap, but it's really not. Just because it's a little bit complicated to think about things in terms of evolution doesn't mean that evolution does not have a very active role in human behavior and human government. And when the temptation, like I said for the last time, when the temptation is indulged by an administrator or a whole government to manage something that should be by rights managed by the people individually between themselves, because obviously love between lovers has nothing to do with anybody who's not in the room. If you need that explained to you, then you probably shouldn't start with this video. Then you have a bigger problem. You have a much bigger problem, and it kind of marks the end days for whatever organization that is. If you ask me, it marks a turning point beyond which you're just declining. You can't support that. Commercial sex is unsupportable for a reason, for the last time, because it randomizes mating for interests other than genetic, for interests other than attraction to a mate. It becomes, political or financial or any number of other things, but not what it's supposed to be. So, in conclusion, something to look for when you find some kind of process that is aimed at controlling the population or controlling the quality of, mating practices, reproduction practices. You can expect before long there's going to be a collapse, because that is unsupportable. Just logically, on the surface, you can see that it's contrary to the survival of the species, because it defeats evolution in the near term and the long term by randomizing selection. You already know what's going to happen. If you know about biology, if you know about logic, that's really all you need to know about it. There's a reason it seems wrong to meddle in people's romance. There's a very good reason, a logical, measurable reason. Reach out if you like with questions or comments to whitehotrobot@gmail.com. Thank you.